So now we are going to talk a little bit
are.
about some hot topics going on. This is Tasha and Regina, Coffee Break, and we have our guest Carlos Hardy, Regina's life partner, joining us today. And it's really kind of cool to have like two people sitting next to each other on the couch, talking, chatting. Look at that Kodak moment.
We want to keep this G-rated, right?
G-rated for sure.
Yeah, G-rated.
G-rated for sure.
Oh, okay.
So,
G could be for good.
That's true. That's true. But so I wanted to start off with this story that I've been reading about, and I think I mentioned it on Facebook. I don't think you and I have talked about it on the show, but it has to do with a rape case that's being reopened in Missouri from 2012, and it was a 14-year-old girl. Her and her best friend decided to sneak out and meet some boys, and these boys were football players, pretty well known in the community, parents that are pretty well known and high up in the community. And apparently the boys, or allegedly I should say, the boys got the two young girls drunk and raped them and then just left them on the doorstep of their home. It was apparently very, very cold, and they were kind of, beat up. They were drunk. They had just been raped, and were left on the doorstep. So the reason why this case is being back opened, because actually the case was dropped, and the one young girl, Daisy, had to even move out of town from all the bullying, the cyberbullying, the threats that she was receiving for these allegations that she made against the boys. But there's been a lot of uproar about this case, and so it is being opened back up, and there's a special prosecutor that that lives outside of the town that has been assigned to this case. And it's just so interesting that some of the threats this little girl has received, that she deserved it. That's what she gets for leaving her house and leaving, and that's very upsetting, truly upsetting.
Yeah, I'm thank her. Or depending on where we're at your in violence towards women. Just so go, I worked for that person. And that's really sad. We're going backwards, but I think it's part of us not advocating. And we had the guy who was having an affair or a relationship with a student, and the judge thought that it was consensual, even though she was 14 and he was a grown man.
Right.
That's going to cause some outrage. For me, like, where are the women's groups that are saying this is not acceptable?
Okay.
It seems to be a little bit more quiet now. Yeah, Carlos, what are you thinking as you're seeing and hearing these stories? I mean, as a male.
Not so much as I'm hearing these stories that I'm hearing you ladies talk about it. And I've got to be honest. I'm having like mixed feelings about it. Never would I condone violating a female. Rape. I wasn't brought up in that era or that way. It would be inconceivable for me to use some type of date rape drug to have my way with a female. But I also think about the issue of the number of moms of the European persuasion that have done something horrible and have always point out immediately that it was a black person that did it to me. And so I understand there's a lot of this going on, but I also understand the impact on somebody's life if somebody says that you did something to them along that line. And so I just struggle with that. When you were telling that story and you were saying we were revisiting the case, the first thing I thought about was double jeopardy. Did these guys, rapists are, they just have a hard time being behind the walls and incarcerated. That's just one of the things that they don't condone within the prison system. So it's a hard subject, and it's one of those ones where there's no winners. There are no winners.
Yeah, I think, Carlos, you bring up a really good point. There's actually a male group called Men Against Rape. It's a national organization out of D.C., and it really is to allow males to be a part of the solution, but to bring, I think, a balanced perspective.
Right.
I think about folks who have been accused, and then later it comes back that it wasn't what we initially thought had happened.
It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle once you let it out. I mean, it might not even get to the point where they have to register on the national sex offender registry. But I mean, it's definitely going to impact their employment. It's, it's just, it's just, I would not want to go through that for nothing in the world.
Right. It's something that I think, there's the two folks involved, but there's also the families of those folks who, are either reacting or having to support, that their son has been accused, and and quite frankly, and their daughter has been accused. And one of the things I think that we have to do is kind of, really lean on compassion, because you're right. I don't think there's a happy day in any of it.
Tasha, we just actually had a case that's playing out in the news here in Maryland now, and it involved 4 midshipmen from the Naval Academy, a female midshipman and 3 male midshipmen, 2 of whom, or maybe all 3 of them, actually played football. And the young lady, they were attending an off-campus party. Something transpired. She was intoxicated, admitted she had problems with drinking, and something happened, and the only way she found out about it was through social media.
Yeah, they posted a video.
Yeah. I don't know if they posted.
Somebody posted a video.
Somebody said that they were at the party and started asking folks. So it wasn't so much that she remembered it happened to her, it was somebody else that said it was happening. And true to how these things play out, the defense attorneys tried to impugn her integrity. Right. It became first of all, then you had a nationally recognized lawyer that went back to the young lady and says, you need to sue, because it was like almost a year after it happened. And the bottom line is they made a decision to discharge 2 of the midshipmen, or court-martial 2 of them, and then the 3rd one they've decided to give him lesser charges. So it was one of those classic cases you're talking about.
Yep. And actually, Gina,
I think that's also a good thing.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that this also allows us to do, you have a boy and 2 girls. Carlos has a little boy, and I have 2 girls. And I think starting to talk about really early, how do we respect each other? And one of the conversations I've had recently with the girls has been, if you see something going on, how do you stand up for what you feel is right? And we teach them not to tattle, but there's also this thin line of, when you're seeing someone being harassed, do you just get quiet so that the harassment stays over there? And this is actually National Bully Month. I think last week was like the Bully Week. And so, I think these are opportunities where we start to shift and change the beliefs of at least the next generation, because I think the generation before us or above us, they automatically assume the woman or whoever the making the accusation is wrong. Like that's even an assumption, even if it's your own daughter. Well, I told you that across the generations, we're really going to have to hold each other accountable as a community. To say something when something is wrong. That video that they showed of that young woman, there were lots of people who could have stepped in and said, you know what, you know that she's not, this isn't going to go well. And it's not going to go well, and it's going to affect me, and it's going to affect you, and it's going to affect our world. So let's just let's chill this out.
Exactly.
How are you thinking about approaching that with let's just say like KJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit a good point, that when you see something that is wrong, kind of standing by, and even if you didn't participate, but kind of standing by and not helping or not saying anything, is just as bad. And so I've already kind of broached that conversation with KJ, because we've seen a lot of these situations where there's a group of boys, and maybe two boys are the ones that are actually doing the offense, but then there's like 6 or 7 or 10 watching or taking pictures or videotaping it. And that's where I've really kind of had that conversation with him on, I know those are your boys, or those will be your friends or whatever, but if you see that they're doing something that's not right, and that could potentially even hurt somebody, you have to step up and say something. You have to be willing to risk that friendship in order to make sure that this other person is not being hurt or violated. So we have had that conversation. And I think with my eldest daughter, even talking about those 2 girls sneaking out of the house, they thought they were just kind of going to go and have a little fun and, come back, no big deal, not to say that it's their fault, but this is where you kind of have to be on the offense and make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and how you can, try to, as best as possible, avoid situations like that. And that's one way, by making sure that you stay safe at home where you're supposed to be, or when you do go somewhere, letting your parents know where you are and what's going on.
Good luck with that, because nothing but God's grace saved me from any of those things.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I'm with you on that.
I think that part of it too is that, so I think it's really, I think it really is that the other part of it is, regardless what happens and what occurs, that that we as moms and as dads are there to help through those trials and tribulations.
Definitely.
Because the world is harsh, and there are hurt people. And we don't want it to hit home, but it will often hit home. And so even how we respond to it is very important. And even when these news items come on, I think how we respond to it makes a big, that they're watching us.
Yeah.
In how in what we're saying about this.
Yeah, I agree.
And they'll mimic it back. So so there's a few other things that are going on in the news. The metro was packed today. The interstate highway people
of absolute nonsense to end up right back where we started from the very beginning. But don't get me started, please, on that.
Is that a whole nother show?
Yes. No, not a whole nother show. Probably 2, maybe even 3.
I think that would be a series.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
One of the things, Devoted Moms, Carlos actually has a show that is on the AM station, 1010, and it's Beyond the Wire. And so I have gotten pulled in and asked to sit in the studio with him a couple of times.
She's the guest co-host, and she loved it. She loved it.
And so one of the things that we talked about on Monday was just, the anxiety that is associated with not really sure when the money's going to come in, or if, and that fate being held in someone else's hands. So I shared with Carlos that I had a friend on Facebook who said, well, why don't we have term limits? And depending on where you are in this world, in the United States, the term limits that we have are every 2 years and every 4 years when we re-elect folks to those positions. We don't have to re-elect the same people over and over. The other challenge is then who do we elect? And it's really time for folks who have a strong.
Hey there.
Hi.
Sorry.
Hi.
I'm not sure where we lost you. We had just a little bit of a moment.
Right.
Maybe that was part of that earthquake preparation thing or
Political
something.
gremlins. They don't want you to talk. They don't want you to know the truth.
Oh, maybe Google is censoring when we start to talk about politics. No.
That's funny.
Well, my thought is that there does need to be change, but there also needs to be, you can't just vote folks out and then replace them with, folks with the same capacity.
Also, electric weeks, people out of work, not getting paid. Chances are they were going to miss their mortgages, while most of the members in Congress did not give up their paychecks. Most of them are millionaires already. They did not give up their paychecks, and they didn't give up their perks. So they still had their gym. They kept the folks that were employed in the gym so they could keep them comfortable. But I think Chris Matthews hit on it last night when he says, you know what, the lowest common denominator in this has to do with hate. And there is a core group of folks out here that hate the fact that we have an African-American president. And I was thinking this morning that President Barack Obama broke that glass ceiling that most people in this country never envisioned
in their
lifetime seeing.
Yeah, hell's supposed to freeze over.
And so it's like, if it's like if I would take Obamacare if that meant I didn't have President Obama. So I think they would accept Obamacare if it wasn't Obama in office.
Right.
So I mean, the bottom line is Mitt Romney did health care reform in Massachusetts, and he was their candidate to the last cycle, and he tried to distance himself from that health care plan.
I agree.
So, and then why is it so bad that you're going to provide health coverage to maybe another 6 million people in this country?
Yeah, I think it's got people really hot because we all understand the need for health care.
We do.
Many of us have experienced not having coverage and having coverage. And there is a peace of mind when you feel like, okay, I have an insurance card, so if something happens, I can at least gain, entry to get better. And so, I agree with Carlos. I think that it goes so much deeper, and that we're not talking about that, the depth of I'd rather sacrifice so many others just for my own, promotion or my belief system to prove, the inadequacies. He's not pulling this off. He's not going to do this well. We're not doing this again.
How many members of Congress have actually went to the mailbox and opened up a letter where they got a $3,800 medical bill for a procedure, or $5,000 because you went and had your child in the hospital? You know? So, I mean, even with medical coverage, you still have to come out of pocket. But it does at least give you some peace of mind that you won't have to hawk the bank or your house or deny your kids their college education just because of a physical or medical issue.
Gosh, she's all passionate over here.
I know.
I made the transition from advocate to activist, and on that issue of healthcare reform, I am a true activist.
Yeah,
I love that.
I love that.
We'll have to have you back on so we can talk about that one day.
Right, maybe he'll be our political.
I tell you what, Tasha.
No,
have your people call my people, and we'll see.
So today is Thursday, and for those who it hasn't become Thursday yet for other places in the world, there is something significant happening tonight that does involve a little bit of political
intrigue, drama.
Yes. Scandal!
Wait a minute. Girl fan.
Scandal. Where my gladiators at? Where my gladiators at?
Are you a gladiator or are you
G-rated.
Sound effect for that one.
Right.
Hopefully this is tape delayed.
So I don't know where the FCC is, but we'll let them call Carl.
Right.
So all right. One of the things I've been hearing is that there's this rumbling about Scandal endorsing, extramarital affairs. Really promoting the yuckiness of our political system. I mean, it's a show, y'all. It's a show.
Written show.
It's on the American broadcast system, and it is a.
Well, no, some of that actually did play out in the White House.
You think so?
Come on. Let's be honest.
You know what? Unless you want M13 to
No.
come up in here, I don't think so. I think it's all based on someone's very elaborate imagination to take it to another level. And Rhonda Shines is one of my favorite. I think she's incredibly talented, and she's coming out with another show.
She's awesome.
She is, honestly.
I mean, honestly.
We get that
if you're
sister
out there,
credit,
Shonda,
but I think we also
need
to
be on our
talk
show,
about her
you're
team.
more than welcome.
At any given time.
And
I think you're right. Her team. She was able to pull together a team of folks.
Rock stars.
Which we definitely believe in the synergy of bringing people together, and I think that it even enriches our experience when we have some extra folks and some extra energy on the air. So that's why we really try hard, Devoted Moms, to get people who we may not agree completely, but we do have some places that we do agree and we want to talk about it. And that's how Tasha and I's relationship is. We don't agree with everything totally. She might say, let's bury the body in the backyard. I'm like, can we go to the lake? There's Panera versus Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts. But the thing is that I think when there's a room and there is a foundation of respect, that we can kind of talk these things through, and you just might think of it differently. Because I think that when Carlos started talking about from the male kind of, or from his point of view, we kind of said, that's a different way to think about it. So I appreciate that. We typically we're going to wrap up, and we usually have with each other a little bit what's called God moments or God stories. And I just wanted to check in and see, Tosh, do you have a God story this week?
Let's see. I kind of mentioned it earlier, and we kind of touched on finances and stuff, but it really truly is a God story for my husband to hand over the reins of handling the finances. Being married 10 years almost in next month, and him always kind of being in the driver's seat. It's definitely a God moment for us to kind of make this shift and see if this could be, the way to go, at least for now. And so I definitely think that that's a God moment, because he definitely stepped out of his way and kind of really thought about it and thought that this could, be an improvement for him as an individual as well as our marriage. So I would say that was my God moment this week.
So, Carlos, do you have a God story that you'd like to share? We, often think about there's these very huge miracles and things that happen, but there's also these small inclinations or gleams that we can't contribute it to anyone but God.
God's story, testimony. Yes, I definitely have one. So I mentioned that I resigned from my position in February, and was just basically able to meet bills for like the last 7 months, Tasha, and then got word, received a letter October 2nd that my company, my organization, MROC, the Maryland Recovery Organization Connecting Communities, was awarded a state grant, a 3-year grant, to organize a recovery housing association. So confirmation, and definitely a God story, and definitely grateful. And was talking to somebody this morning, had to put it in its perspective. It doesn't mean that I'll be able to buy a new car or anything like that, but any building, any project has to have a starting point, and you have to build a foundation. So I'm grateful for this foundation that God has blessed us with.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of my God story is, I've shared with Devoted Moms that I have a daughter, my youngest daughter, Indira, that cake is for Carlos because it's his birthday. Ooh. So one God story is that he woke up this morning and he had started yet another year of life. And I am very grateful to God for that. And so we'll be having more cake later on that we can actually eat. But I saw that little prop. I thought it was cute. But Indira, my endearing Indira, continues to hold me accountable on being a different mom and hopefully a better mom. So last night, we've got this tradition in our neighborhood where people drop by baskets of candy and straws and all things related to Halloween. And it's called being booed. Well, we got booed not once, but we got booed twice. And you're supposed to put the sign up that says we've been booed, so they will take the treats to another house. We ended up with two. In one of the booing bags, which is kind of funny to say it like that, one of the booing bags had a lot of candy in it. Mm-hmm. And so I was very clear. It is 8 o'clock. We're not doing candy. We can have some for in the morning. I'm a big advocate of candy in the morning because I figure by the end of the day, your teacher has to deal with you or somebody else has to deal with that sugar rush or decline. My stuff, I know. I'm not going to write a book anytime soon, y'all. So Indira, it decides that she really wants some candy. And Indira doesn't have as much melon as Tasha or Carlos, and so her little tongue was blue. And I'm like, either she's going in a shock, or this little chick has just completely disobeyed what I was very clear about. Right. And it was the latter. And I was hurt. I mean, I was hurt that my baby girl would just completely toss out what I thought I was pretty clear about, and then she hid it, and she held it. She had the wrapper in her hand, and her sister and our housemates completely threw her under the bus. I mean, they were just like, and it took me to smell her breath, to smell the blueberry Tootsie Roll candy, for me to actually believe it. Like, I was like, I know she didn't do that. That's toothpaste. Yeah, I know she didn't do that, and she did do it. And so I really had to say, like, is this about me, or what am I going to do with this? Because, I mean, it's not like she stole a car. Right. But it's the beginning of how do I get her to pay attention and be very clear about my boundaries and what my expectations. And so we went through the whole, I'm very disappointed in you, and I went straight to, you get 4 ponytails tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good thing for her. She doesn't like ponytails. It makes her feel real bad about herself. But I went straight there, which was the same as me raising my hand and hitting her and spanking her. So I really think that through the course of the night, the Spirit really talked to me and said, what are you doing here? How is this different than having her have like a shame? And I don't want her to be shamed into doing the right things. I want her to do the right things because they're the right things. So this morning we had another conversation, and we came up, with a different punishment. Mm-hmm. She also told me that she didn't a different kind of consequence for her decision. Mm-hmm. She also told me the ponytails aren't too bad anymore. But I really did, it was real. I was being very prayerful because I don't want to shame her. I want her to understand I say what I say. There's a reason why I say it, and if we're going to talk it through, then we can do that. So my God story is that I'm still a work in progress, and I'm still trying to figure this thing out, and I just, hope that it's not a car next time. And if it is, that she'll choose something different. Lord help me. So, the God stories come in there in the middle of the night, and today, this afternoon, we'll talk about, her being restricted from doing some things. Mm-hmm. But I felt more connected to her, talking it through with her, and not saying, I'm going to shame you into doing better. I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want. That's not who I want to be to her.
Right.
So that's my God story. Trying to listen and submit.
I like that.
So thanks to
nice.
Sylvia Global, we've had a great time. Thanks to Carlos.
Had a ball, ladies. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being on. Well, we are going to say goodbye, devoted moms, and it has been awesome. Thank you for hanging out with us today, and we will see you next week, same time, same place. See you on the other side, Gina.
Okay. See you on the other side. Thanks, devoted moms.
Bye.